Today is the day of departure from Darwin. So we've spent a week here doing all the maintenance stuff that needs to get done. Replaced the house batteries, had some work done on the genset. Look at the list, just went on and on and on. Spent a pile of money. But today is the day. We're going to jump off from here. We're clearing out border force at 8:45, which is an hour and 20 minutes. And then through the lock, and we're on our way to Saumlaki in Indonesia. It should take us about 2.5, maybe 3 days, non-stop. Gonna have the tide against us for most of today, and then we'll have it with us for a period. I'm still undecided whether I'm going to go around north of the Vernon Islands or whether I'm going to go around the Tiwi Islands. If I go around the Tiwis, my wind angle decreases or increases by 15 degrees thereabouts. So it's a better angle if I go past the Vernon Islands, but I'm going to have the tide running hard against me as I go through. So I'll make that decision as we get a little bit closer, just to see how big an effect the tide and the wind is going to have on us. But I am got those typical passage nerves. I didn't sleep well last night, so it's just one of those things, you know, you worry if you've got everything right, and I hope so. Certainly there's a lot to do when we're talking about an international trip, because a lot of clearing in, clearing out, visas, documentation that we have to have, and I want it to go as smoothly as possible. On top of that, obviously the vessel itself and the safety of the vessel, and then the navigation and the plan. There's a lot to it. But we're going to eat something, then we're going to see border force, we're going to get our visas, our passports stamped, and we're going to let go of the lines, and we're going to go. The thing about these long trips, you just got to break them down into the little parts. Just do each little part at a time, and eventually the whole plan will come out. So we're all cleared away. Just ready, waiting now for border force to turn up. Probably about 45 minutes early. So boat's all spick and span, literally ready to go to sea today. All perfect. It's been a pleasure staying here. It's a really pretty marina, really lovely people, lots of good long distance cruisers coming through. We just had border force on board. They checked us out, and we're going to wave goodbye to Lady D as we go past. Looks like they're there on board. See you guys.
Yeah, have a good, mate.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy your fishing, eh?
Yeah, cool.
Righto, mate. There's one of the oyster boats going to Kupang today. Apparently they're not going to have any wind, so they'll be motoring, I guess, but you probably carry enough fuel for that. Big boat. More boats all stacked up waiting to come in. And there's cleared the lock now. They're ready to take another boat, I guess. We're going to make our way out through this narrow entrance. Big high five for Tan, setting all our sails today. We're on our way. Didn't expect to find any wind out here, but I guess it'll be light and variable all day, but we're getting about 10 or 12 knots. So we should be able to sail for at least while this lasts. Good start. We're getting a fantastic sail here. We've got about 10 or 12 knots of wind, flat water, and although we're right on it, like I'm pointing as high as I can, we've got a significant tide running behind us as we come out of Darwin. Just clocking us along about 9 knots over the ground, which is absolutely smoking us in the right direction for now at least. I mean, it's going to turn against us, but Now's a good time, good start. You can see there, as we head up the channel, heading northwest away from Darwin, we're making nearly 9 knots over the ground. And through the water, I'd say more like 5. So we're getting a significant push here. That is a real big help. Real big help. Wasn't expected, so that's a plus. Of course, we're going to turn 90 degrees to starboard and start heading down towards the Vessel Islands, I think they're called. When we get the Vernon Islands, heading down towards the Vernon Islands, and we'll have the tide against us as we go. But you know, and then it'll turn sometime tonight, about 5 or 6 o'clock tonight. We should start to get it in our favour. It's now 10 o'clock, so yeah. But we'll take what we can get when we can get it. Nice that we are actually able to sail right now. I didn't think we'd have any chance at all today, looking at windy and all the forecasts. So feeling pretty good that we got a little bit of breeze. Only doing about 4.5, 5 knots, but it's still, that's 3 miles, and I'll take them where I can get them. Very calm down here today. I'm just slowly going to windward. Boat's not rocking or rolling or doing anything awful. It's really pleasant sailing. And even though we're only making 4 or 5 knots, I'd be happy to do this all the way to Indonesia if we could. Of course, that's not going to happen. So there's pretty much 2 choices. One is to come out through the channel here, through the Vernon Islands and come up here. And the other one is to head out a bit further west, come around the Tiwis and then come up this way. Advantages and disadvantages for both. The big advantage for the Vernon Islands is more direct. We come up here and then by the time we spit out on our way to Saumlaki, it's about a 10 to 15 degree better angle than if we come out here to the Tiwis. The downside, of course, for that is that the tide through here absolutely races at up to 6 knots. So I'm trying to time it so that we get to the Vernon Islands here, close or near slack water, so that we can then ride the tide up and spit out the top end. Whether we time that well, I don't know. At the moment, the decision I've just made now is that I'm going to go past the Vernon Islands. You like typhoon? Oh, I love it. We've done really well. So we used the motor for about an hour this morning when we came out of the marine, we moved out of our berth into the lock, and then from the lock out into the channel. Then we found some wind and turned it off. And I turned it on for about another 15 minutes, so an hour and 15 minutes. But since then, we haven't used it. We're on a very fine beat, around about 38, 40 degrees on the wind, but it's flat, smooth seas, and we're just touching, I can see now, we're just getting 14 knots, of which we're making 5. So probably getting about 9 to 10 knots of wind right now. And because the sea's so flat, we're making good ground. We've got the tide against us at about 1.5 knots to 2 knots. We're still managing, you know, 4.5 knots over the ground, which is more than enough to get us to the top of the Vernon Islands well before the tide changes. So we'll have a good ride from here, I think. Even though we're fighting the tide, we're not, you know, using any diesel to do it. And it's smooth water, really flat sailing, so yeah, quite happy with this, no problems at all. And once the tide starts to let us go, around about 4:30 this afternoon, about another 3 hours from now, we'll start to get that tide to push us and spit us out the other end. And hopefully we'll, if we keep a little bit of wind, we'll make some good ground. Flat water, probably 15 knots. We had about 20 knots before, but we've got about 15 knots now. We're making about 33 to 35 degrees on the wind. and we're having a fat little sail. We're beating the tide, which is remarkable considering it's running against us all morning. It's about to turn in about an hour, so we're going to tack shortly towards the channel through the Vernon Islands. By the time we get there, the water should go slack or be very close to it, and then we're going to start to accelerate through there and then spit out the other end at the top of the Coburn Peninsula. Thais from northeast Thailand, Isan, love to eat this stuff. It's basically pawpaw, green pawpaw, cut real thin with heaps of spices and fish sauce, and it's disgusting. But Thais love it. I don't know why. And in Thailand they actually mash a fresh crab, not even cooked. They mash a fresh crab in there just to make it even more disgusting. Oh, this is no good. Anyway, good to see Tan's enjoying his life. So we're still getting a really fine beat into about, well, we've got 16 knots apparent. We're making 6 of those, so probably 10 to 12 knots of wind. And we're getting towards late afternoon. We're right here at the Vernon Islands now. Tide's finally turned in our favour, and you can see it's setting our course to starboard there, which is going to suit us just fine. Very shortly I'm going to tack to starboard, and we're going to zip in between these reefs here. We'll have the tide kicking with us, probably a couple of knots, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're clocking 7 or 8 once I make that tack. Here we are doing 8.7 knots over the ground, and here we're probably doing 5, maybe 5.5, something like that. So I reckon we're getting a good 3 knots right now behind us. Join us in the next episode, part 2 of crossing the Arafura Sea, as we head out away from the Australian mainland and into the Arafura Sea proper. And don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy the videos as much as we enjoy making them.